What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hollywood Already Did It presents Faces of the Moon, our Moon Knight weekly podcast where we are pairing up a identity-themed movie with each episode of Moon Knight as it comes out week to week. As always, I'm your host, Blake Schultz, and with me is Jamie Jirach.
Hello.
And Terrence Tatum.
Hello, everyone.
And we are getting into episode 2 of Moon Knight, and we are pairing it up with the 1999 every college film boy's favorite movie, David Fincher's Fight Club, a movie that I hold very near and dear to my heart, but have a lot of mixed feelings about it. We're going to get into all of them and how it pairs up with this episode of Moon Knight. But first, we are now in episode 2 of 6, so we're a third of the way through it, which does not seem okay, of Moon Knight. How are you guys feeling so far?
Yeah, it's so cool. Well, I'm so into it. One thing that I'm really liking that's really interesting to me, because we talked about this in our last episode, like not knowing a lot about the character. And before I watched it, all I knew was that it was like Moon Knight, Mark Spector's like the main personality guy. So going into it and not meeting really Mark until this episode, and it feels like it's Stephen's show. And I'm curious how much more, like, because Stephen kind of got pushed down now, and I'm curious how much Stephen we're going to get, because people who don't know anything about Moon Knight, we were introduced to Stephen. Stephen's our boy. He's our main man, and he's precious, and I want to protect him at all costs. And it's an interesting way to go by, and I think that it does pair well with the Fight Club in a lot of ways. And we're Blake nailing the movie choices for these episodes.
I know, yeah, these are perfect. These two one-to-ones. I kind of feel the same way, Jamie. I feel like the way that this episode ends, it seems like the rest of the show is going to be more Mark heavy than it does Stephen. He sort of killed the Stephen one to kind of move Mark along, which we'll get there later. But I don't think he's completely gone. I don't think you can do that with the way that this character is built on the personalities. It's just Stephen's the weaker of the two, and when you start getting into what they're about to do, Mark is the one that kind of takes over. I dug this episode quite a bit. You get a lot of more questions raised, but then a lot of stuff gets answered. I love the whole. One of my favorite parts is him watching the security camera to see that, oh crap, no one else can see what I see when I'm in there. That was fascinating to me, because I did not realize that sort of how this world kind of worked. I didn't get that originally, but now that all makes sense, that no one can really see that except for, it's kind of like a Ghost Rider stuff sometimes, where like only they can see the demons, or they can only see what's happening. And I dug that quite a bit. Oscar playing technically three different characters is pretty phenomenal, because the introduction four, yeah, because the introduction of Mr. Knight, I have not laughed so hard in my entire life, because he had never seen Moon Knight's suit, and they kept telling him, put your suit on, and that's what he manifested. Was like, that's brilliant, because I know that's not how it works, how it's done in the comics. I know it's just a variant suit that he's worn, but to throw that in there and that's how they use it, I was like, that is genius. I dug.
Apparently, it was Oscar's idea to fall over on like at his hero landing, and then he fell, and that was just such a good touch. He's so good.
Yeah, I'm having a ball.
Well, and it's interesting because I really also quite enjoyed Mr. Knight's arrival, because one, that suit is just awesome.
Yeah.
And I think there's something very cool of like almost inverting like a male gaze idea of like, we had this cool fun one for us, and then this person lands and you're like, ooh, what a debonair GQ style. This is a man about town. This is great. But I like that in the comics, Mr. Knight is used so much as his like investigation, and it's more of protecting people than it is just like the fist of Khonshu and vigilantism and fighting. This is a lot more of like protecting and helping, and it makes sense then thematically that Stephen would manifest this version of the identity. I'm still holding out that eventually we'll also get to Jake Lockley, and we'll get kind of everything in there. I don't know that we're going to get everything all in one season, but like, let's get everything all in one season.
I think we're getting at least Jake.
I mean, we have to. I think you're right. I had that same thought also, because I was like, it's interesting that we were introduced to Stephen first and kind of built it as his show. So I'm not sure if it's going to be Mark's show or Moon Knight show or Khonshu's show or Mr. Knight. Like, I don't know. We're obviously following the character, the body of Mark Spector, but I was like, I don't know whose personality, unless the arc is going to be like, we all have to figure out how to live in here together now and really manage this in a way where clearly Mark Spector has been in control for years at some points in his life and established a relationship and has established being the fist of Khonshu and doing all this other work. So you almost have to wonder then, how long has Stephen been running the show, managing this hotel museum? Like, how long this hotel
I'd stay there.
The hotel of the mind.
That's an answer that I know they will probably get it, but that's an answer that I want, because I don't know at what point did he shut off to start taping the door and doing, like, when did that decision get made? It had to have occurred at some point in time where he made a logistic, like, I'm now in charge, but I know I need to lock myself away.
And I think my one issue with the episode is kind of that, Terrence, where I'm like, he seems so surprised that this is happening, but he's built all of these solutions.
Correct.
So, like, it's happened before. And also, I think as an audience, we know what's going on. And there was still a sort of lot of like, what's happening? And I was like, we know what's happening. We only have 6 episodes. Let's go. I was like, when we got to like, we're in Egypt at the end, right? He's like ready. I was like, great. Now we're going to start, like, episode 3 is going to go. I am ready to follow Mark Spector and Moon Knight and get into the lore and get into the psyche and get into the history. Although I was obsessed with the one-on-one scene with Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaac in the, like, well, no, don't you? I'm the avatar for this god. And, like, if you help me, we can just murder everyone. And kind of getting his, like, moral compass moment of like, well, hold on. No, I was sort of with you. And now you're talking about hurting innocent people. I don't think this works either. And I sort of enjoyed him just being like, Khonshu's talking to you. Like, he's like a jealous ex. Like, I love it. He's just like, he's with you now, isn't he? Talking? What's he saying? He's telling you to hurt me? He's telling you to hurt me, isn't he? Listen, he's manipulating you. He's a bad god. He's a loser. And I was like, I love this. I love it. I also want, like, we've done now so much of like, the Asgard gods were aliens and they're over here. And I'm like, well, now we have these gods. So I'm like, I'm curious how we're going to filter out all of this. But I agree. I am very much like, we kind of pushed Stephen out. And I don't know now, are we just going to do this? Now Mark gets 2 episodes, and then maybe it would be weird to give Jake Lockley the last 2, but maybe we're going to Moon Knight will be the last 2. And then we'll be like, I have no idea how we're going to structure this, but I'm very excited for the road. And Ethan Hawke's villain just keeps getting more and more awesome and violent and dark. And that's what I wanted. I was like, we're not going to get dark and scary enough. We're going to follow around.
Nice was creepy. Like nice villain. Ethan Hawke is worse than when he's just killing people.
Well, even just like those scenes in the hallway of the lights coming off and on and then coming behind him, I was like, this is what I wanted. I wanted us to get kind of into this almost Sam Raimi horror world and see what's going to happen. So
even though Morbius also did it.
Yeah, but Morbius wasn't good.
No, I know. I know.
But I also was like,
but I do think it's funny that both, even though one is obviously infinitely superior, I do think it's funny that both use that kind of lighting.
The light, yeah.
It was funny because it's such a good. If you were teaching a directing class, you would use both of those scenes and be like, here's why the Morbius one is weird. The lights are turning off in different orders and in different places. And then she just hits a light switch and it fixes all of them. So that's weird. This is very clearly something supernatural is happening. Also, Morbius nor Matt Smith in that movie have powers over like electricity, so they wouldn't be able to do it. So that just is an electrical problem in the hospital. So it's also like, it's as if the nurse knows to be like, oh, hold, if I make it to this switch, it'll fix all the lights. Like a fuse is out. And in this scene, it's like, no, the darkness of Khonshu is closing in. There's nowhere to run. We're blinding you. This might not even be real. And Khonshu's a god and can do this. Thank you for Blake's Morbius minute. Every minute of this episode, we will dedicate to.
I went to WonderCon with Blake, and it was just all day just hearing about how much Blake.
I had just seen it.
It's fair. It's not good.
I did not pity Jamie. I was like, her and her coworkers have to interview these people and be like, so when you were making it, I'm like, I could never.
Shout out to BD.
How dare you?
My BD, who I do Phase Zero with, did have to interview the director, and I do know that like it's not easy. When I had to interview Jessica Chastain and Sebastian Stan for the 355, I was so excited to talk to those two actors, but it was like I also had to pretend that I liked the 355, and it's really hard, and especially because it's like I love you guys and you're so good at what you do. This movie's no good, and I feel bad. I want to root for you. I want this movie to be good. I'm never rooting for Jared Leto though, so I didn't really want movies to be good.
No, it's fine. I did like, you know what, that director though, and then we'll be done with Morbius. I kind of respected that somebody was like, everyone hates it. He was like, that's fine. I'm proud of it. I don't care. And I was like, you know what? Hell yeah. Because I feel like most people, he didn't even justify
it's his fault. Really.
Yeah, he just was like, I don't give a shit. I think it's great. And I was like, awesome. He could have sat there and been like, they don't get it. But instead he was like, we made it.
Yeah.
Have you ever made a Morbius movie?
That's great. That's like the whole David Ayer thing. It's like, I don't know, man. You can't keep leaning on the Snyder Cut situation because Snyder left the film due to a family emergency. That's why he didn't get to make the movie he wanted to make, because he had to leave the set and not finish the movie. Like that. So even though Snyder, oh my God, you guys, Snyder fans have really come after me recently. I got an insane Instagram message that was basically like, I hope your vagina fell out or something like, I don't even remember. It was insane. Just because I don't love the Snyder Cut. But the point is, Snyder did deserve to get that extra chance to redo his vision. Whereas other directors mostly, I know studios get involved and stuff, but I think I'm just over this whole thing. We went on a tangent there. I'm sorry.
It happens. Let's go on other tangents as we journey back to 1999. Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow have taken America by storm.
It's the year of the teen rom-com.
Yeah. Season 10 of The Simpsons is in full swing. Seinfeld is off the air, and we're wondering what we'll do in a world without situational comedies like this. Who knows? Y2K movies are ready. The Matrix is out, and Fight Club is changing the minds of every film student on the planet. And we are, of course, pairing up this episode with Fight Club. So let's talk about our complicated relationship with this movie.
This is my freshman year of college when this movie came out. And I was obsessed. Like, I loved this movie. I was already on my kick with Fincher. Like, he had that run of The Game and this back to, I was like, and Seven. I'm like, oh, this guy is great. I was consuming everything that he put out. And so I watched the movie and I was like, oh, I love it. Especially being that angry, I don't know why I was angry, but an angry college teen, like, angsty kid, like, I'm upset about everything in the world, blah. This movie fed right into all of that anger and that frustration that I had. I was like, oh, this is the perfect film. And then as I get older, and I start aging out of that, and I'm like, oh, this movie, it has a lot of problematic things that are a part of it. And I as I get older, I agree with less and less what this film is trying to tell people. And I think a lot of the issues that I have is that the people that this film is quote unquote about have taken the wrong message from this movie and have run this way with it, as opposed to sort of learning the correct things from it.
Like Joker people.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and the main difference between Joker and Fight Club is that Fight Club is sort of meant to be satirical.
Correct.
And being like, isn't it funny how like fragile men are and the lengths they'll go to be like, but I'm a man.
Yeah. And Fight Club is technically good, where Joker is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Like, there is a difference there.
Oh,
but,
I mean,
but if you tell me like either movie, I'm gonna see it as a red flag. Or love, I should say. It's okay to like Fight Club, but if you tell me Fight Club's your favorite movie, that's the red flag.
Then we'll have, yeah.
I think my favorite way to explain my relationship with this movie now is very similar to Terrence. I saw it in college. I called the ending and made my friend mad because he was like, "You'll never see what happens." And then it's the scene when he's like, "Tell him you fell down some stairs." And I fell down some stairs, and I looked at my friend and I was like, "That's the same man." And he was like, "How did you do that?" I was like, "Because the doctor would have heard him say those things." Also, the movie keeps being like, "Hey guys, isn't this weird?"
It is so obvious upon rewatch. It is painfully obvious.
It is painfully obvious. Yeah.
It is sending you, with Marla especially, it just keeps being like, he is Tyler, guys. Which makes it on this rewatch, and I watched it late. I did a Memento because we were watching that. Then I watched SNL, and then I watched this, and I didn't realize how long that would have me up. And like around the third act break, when he's like, "I have to go stop Tyler," and I was like, "Okay, we're almost done. Why are there 30 more minutes?" I was like, "Oh, I forgot that he now has to like travel the globe to be like, where's Tyler?" And everyone's like, "We don't know, sir." And I'm like, "Okay, we got it. Like,
we got it.
We only need 2 of these. He doesn't need to go to every single planet and state and city. Okay, like, please just get to the reveal. I'm so tired."
It was definitely a movie that felt it was way smarter than everybody else in the room. We're like, guys, we got
1999, it was. Between that and The Matrix, we were like, stories can do this.
For me, I'm like 99. That's when we're talking smart and crazy. We're talking being John Malkovich over here. Like that's one that holds up and is amazing. And this Fight Club's a good movie. I still gave it a 4 out of 5 when I logged it this week on Letterboxd. Like it's not bad, but when you know what's happening, when you know the twist, it is exhausting. It is like the middle is very boring to me now. I do like the ending just in terms of, I like that it doesn't, once he figures out the twist, which as we talked in our last episode, I think is a hack way to twist a movie, but at least we get some of his aftermath of dealing with it. I like that it doesn't just end right there. We get a little more. I do like the buildings coming down. It's like, whoa, that was a big operation that you were heading there, buddy.
I think that's
kind of cool. But
I was like, I think that's another reason why it was so big in '99 was we had never really seen a movie yet where it's like, oh, he won. He did it.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And I like that about it. I do like the very end and I like the beginning a lot. And Brad Pitt and Edward Norton are both great.
Yeah.
Helena Bonham Carter is obviously fucking great. It's just like and again, like I don't dislike this movie. I own it. But although this DVD is like over 15 years old and it's like pristine, so that tells you how much I've watched it over the years. But I just I love David Fincher, and there are like 6 David Fincher movies I would choose any day of the week to watch over Fight Club. Fight Club to me is a bottom tier Fincher. The only Fincher movie I think that is legitimately bad is Benjamin Button, but like this is not far above it on my ranking of Finchers.
Yeah. He's, if not my favorite, one of my favorite directors. But I agree. The more that I see things like The Social Network and Seven and a lot of the rest of his catalog, and it's like this gets further and further down because I'm like, this is a kind of a one-trick pony. And outside of that one trick, it's a lot of like philosophy 101. There's a lot of reasons why people of a certain age do cling to it the way I did and the way Terrence kind of did, where you are like, yeah, I'm a man and I don't need my dad even though my dad didn't leave. You're like, my dad left, and if God left, was that we don't need him. And it's like, there is a catharsis to the movie. I think there is a lot. But as I kind of kept joking with my roommate last night, we kept looking at each other and be like, see, man, people just don't get it. They just don't get it. Like, you know, it's like, it's Tyler, man. Like, we're all trying to get to that level. I was like, yeah, this is why this movie is kind of problematic now, because so many people are just like, but don't you, this is back when men were men. We're supposed to be even weird lines he has when he's like, your stuff is just stuff, man. Does your couch help us in the hunter-gatherer survival sense of the word? No. And it's like, yeah, we're like way past that. We're like, we're so far past, it's like, we're a hunter-gatherer society. Like we're not anymore. We're a nested, domesticated, sad society. And he's pointing out stuff that like you figure out by yourself, where it's like, we're all just going to go work these corporate jobs. And it's like, yep, we live in capitalism. Sorry,
right.
Tyler. I don't know what to tell you. Like, wipe the debt to zero. We'll just rebuild it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The banks aren't just in those buildings. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's shot so well, and Brad Pitt and Ed Norton are like peak performance, and there are just some moments where you're like, that's a great hit. There are still some awesome lines. Marla's great. It's directed very well. It's shot very well. But it's just aged in a weird way. I have a very complicated relationship, because even while I was watching it, I was like, man, this is both like really good, and at the same time, I'm just sort of rolling my eyes every now and then.
Yeah.
Like this, I'm both very engaged and also like, yeah, okay.
It's one of those things that have gotten kind of worse because of its fandom. I think like you grow a bit of a disdain for something when the people who love it are annoying about it.
Or troubling.
And,
yeah.
And that's part of it. Because again, I even though like I will roll my eyes at this movie all day long, like it's a well-made movie. It is. It's just like, we get it.
It's the way I also now feel about the Boondock Saints. Like I watched that during the pandemic again for the first time since I was a teenager, and was like, we needed a whole movie for these two guys to be like, we shouldn't murder and hurt people. And if you do it, we'll find you. And I was like, we needed a whole fucking, somebody saw Pulp Fiction and was like, that divine intervention part, we're going to make that the whole movie. Like that's very much how that feels now, where I'm like, man, somebody just took one thing from Tarantino and was like, that'll be 90 minutes and it's going to be fun. Like these super macho 2000s male movies where it's like, even any undertone, like every woman in this movie to him is just like, she's in my way. She showed up at all of my man places, and now she's invading my fight club. And it's like, oh my, calm down, man. It's fine.
Yeah.
But boy, when they fight each other outside of the bar for that first time, I love it. And Brad Pitt, as much as you're like, we shouldn't aspire to be him, you are like, I get why people want to be this man.
That's
This
cool, man.
fucking suave
He's
man.
a cool ass man.
I mean, Brad Pitt's freaking cool. You can't,
Shows up with that shaved head and those weird glasses and that red coat, just like, come on, man, figure it out. You're almost there. And you're like, I want to do something like that. That's very
I
cool.
love that the first time you see him is on the airport walkway, and he just like kind of goes by him, and it's like, oh, that was like weirdly hot. It's just him on an airport walkway, but I was like, damn, Brad, get it. Like he has an energy, and in this movie is just it's like he's literally an energy, because he's a multiple well, I was gonna
say it's about that energy. That's the weird aspiration that all of these men, that he makes an army. And it's so weird because he's like the pinnacle that they're all trying to do, but he keeps telling them to get to the bottom. His whole mantra is like, you're not special or unique, get to the bottom, hit bottom, hit bottom. And it's like, in a weird way, he's trying to stop them from obtaining what they think he is, which is a way that people keep power. Like that's how people in power keep power, is to be like, no, you go forth and do my bidding because you don't want this. I'm very tired all the time. It would be so exhausting. But at the same time, it's very interesting that such a big part of that movie is like, we're going to become Tyler Durden. Like he's built the system he's trying to destroy in capitalism. And I think that's also something that, they just don't get it. Because like really what it's saying is like, he's become the system that he's trying to destroy. See, even I end up doing it where you're like, there's a lot going on in this movie though. I do think my biggest thing now is I'm like, Ed Norton was a man with a job in a nice apartment. He could like go to a doctor. His boss, nobody does anything to him in this movie. His like evil boss is just like, please don't smoke and bleed in the office.
I think that is a part of where my disconnect has come to as I've grown older. I'm like, you guys were all straight white dudes. Like life isn't that difficult for you in comparison.
I also, this is something that I thought about this time watching it. Where is that house? Like, I don't mean like geographically in a state. I mean like in a very literal sense. Because he's like, first he describes it as being between like a plant and a factory. And then later he's like, we were completely isolated for half a mile or a mile in every direction. And I was like, where is this? This doesn't make it. Almost a part of me was like, is this also supposed to be fake? is he still living in his apartment and like thinks that he's in this home? Because like it just doesn't, it feels as unreal as Tyler does. And I'm sure that that's part of the direction of like nothing's really supposed to feel, you're supposed to feel like you're sleep deprived. Like that's so much of this movie is you feel tired watching it, which is very kind of cool. But we're pairing this up with Moon Knight because, and we brought this up before, a very weird way that a lot of movies deal with mental illness is like he just shoots himself in the head and Tyler's done. That's it. He didn't need therapy or medication or help. He just needed to literally kill himself to be reborn as a phoenix. And
it genuinely makes no sense.
And I get it. Like you can shoot yourself and survive. Like it's very specific. And they even kind of go to be like, it's a very specific
it looks cool.
And it looks cool. And you know what? In my mind, I thought he just did it and Marla showed up. I forgot that there is a lot of the people of Project Mayhem being like, how is he still standing? Oh, he's just a badass. And I was like, okay, I mean, like, that's not a great explanation, but at least the people around him are also noticing how preposterous it is.
It's not the face shooting that bothers me. It's the fact that you shooting yourself in the face gets rid of your other personality. That's
the bigger problem. But in my memory, I was like, he shoots himself, Marla shows up, wakes him up, and he's just like, you met me at a weird time. I forgot that they do the work, I guess is my point. Like they do enough, and it's not that much. Like they do enough though to be like, I need gauze, get out of here, I'm fine. It's weird that I'm standing, but like, just please go get me like bandages. I don't need a hospital. I'm like, okay, at least he isn't just like, boom, and we're back. There's enough kind of like in the scene to be like, well, man, this is crazy. And I was like, good. There's other people acknowledging how bonkers this is. But yeah, Jamie, the bigger problem is just like, and to fix my mental problem, I will shoot myself.
Shoot it out of me.
It's like,
I think that's the way it works.
I don't think a doctor would tell you to do that. I think a doctor would advise, I think there's phone numbers and helplines and all sorts of other things to prevent such a very thing from happening. But it's interesting because this is so much about identities crossing over and taking over themselves. And I think that is why we've chosen this movie for this episode of Moon Knight, because for all of the issues and lamenting of the fanship, the story is very interesting, and it is paralleling with this chapter of Moon Knight in that we're seeing the struggle of dealing with DID and not knowing who you are and being such different people, and when they're in control, the like individual pain that you're going through. We see Stephen have to kind of reconcile with things that he's done without realizing it in a much better way than say the Winter Soldier ever has, where we've just been like, you were mind controlled. And it's like, we also saw him in Winter Soldier go about his way and amend and avenge, and I'm so sorry. But this is so different because like Mark and Stephen have very different moral compasses and very different views on right and wrong. And so does Khonshu, and so does the fire god that's possessing Ethan Hawke. And it's interesting because Fight Club is so much about that, of like what happens when like you go too far. But clearly, you know, they make the argument, Tyler makes the argument that the narrator wants to do all of this. Everyone does this. We all talk to ourselves. We all envision ourselves better. You're the only ones with the balls to go this far. And I'm doing everything you want to do. Like, this is somewhere in your brain, you made me to do everything that you were too weak to do. And that's not what happened in Moon Knight, but in Moon Knight, it is more about like, Mark has moments where he's like, you can't do this, Stephen, I can do it. You gotta give me the wheel.
Yeah.
You gotta let me in. And
that's what sort of plays at the end when Stephen kind of just like, crap, I'm not built for this. Like, I have to hand this over to you. And that's that sort of relinquishing, like, you are more capable of handling this than I am. So here, which is, it's a fun way to sort of do that, but it plays into sort of what we saw with Fight Club. Like, as we said, Tyler is always the alpha male, and he's sort of, that's who you have to get that off to. You want to get shit done, if you would.
I think an interesting difference is that with Fight Club, you know, it kind of ends with Tyler isn't real. He's not real. But the way that Moon Knight approaches it is like, no, every personality is real, and you are rooting for them. You don't really want to pick one of those two guys to take over, because you want Mark to be happy with his wife, but you want Stephen to live his little museum gift shop life. And to me, that's way more compelling than the Fight Club aspect of it. And I'm sure anyone with DID would say that they're real. I don't, you know, like the versions of yourself. I don't know if there is
as important as the other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's, you know, it's a complicated thing. You know, it's not like McAvoy and Split, although a great performance. But I don't think that's really how it works. But,
yeah, I think
I don't really know.
I think we can avoid a lot of the horror movies that deal with this, because they're almost always like Identity does it.
Yeah.
And Split and Glass. Yeah, there's a lot of like, we don't need to get too oh
it's in the weeds there. Yeah,
that's where you're really gonna start being like, this is almost offensive. This is
oh yeah, I think people are offended by Split. I feel like I've read that, and but the thing about Split is though, it's like, just James McAvoy is such a good actor that it's fun to watch.
Well, that is such a, like, it's horror and it's fake. It's like, I get why people are offended, and they probably could have done it in a more sensitive way, but like it almost should have just straight up been like, there is a demon and it's possessing him, and we are like, this is what we're doing. Because he morphs. We're not,
because his body changes.
Fucking stupid Glass movie.
I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate the end.
It wasn't great, but I didn't hate it.
But yeah, I think we do sort of see now, especially at the end, how this is going to affect him. Because when we get to the end, Stephen he wants to go back and he wants to be done. And Mark is, I don't want to say selfish, because we don't know the context of the story and like everything else that's really happening. But we do get a lot more in this episode of like, I have to keep doing stuff for Khonshu, because if I stop, his next avatar is going to be my partner with whom I have divorce papers. I also loved on the bike, he's like, I would never divorce you. I would never, that's not something I would do. And it's interesting that she's unaware, that she's also like, what are we doing?
That's odd to me. I'm interested to see where we're going with this, because I think we're going to get answers. I do. I think we're going to get answers based on the mother, because if Stephen's talking to his mom on the phone all the time and Mark hasn't talked to his mother in years, I think we're going to get answers that way.
I don't think that's his mother. I think that's going to be a big twist.
So even still, it's going to be an answer of some sort.
But to your point, it's clear that she's only seen Mark. She's never seen this person. So timing wise, I need to get a couple more answers there. Like, when did this cut on? Because clearly there's a huge part of this life where it's just been Mark. And I need to know when that flipped and why.
Yeah, right. And I think, you know, I know what I know from the comics, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of like something with Khonshu woke all you guys up. And I did all the work to kind of put you and Jake away, and then like this God, and now everything's here. And I'm sure eventually we'll really have to get into the debate of whether or not Khonshu's even real. But I think because we have Ethan Hawke and this other fire god, that it's very much like, no, that is something that's happening. But like part of the story is like, how can you trust it entirely?
Right.
So I'm sure we'll get all the answers because it's becoming very clear to me that this story is going to be very, let's go stop the bad guy now. Like, we're going to play with DID and identity and memory and all of these things. But unlike WandaVision, which was so steeped in its themes and ideas, I think this is going to become a much more traditional, there's a MacGuffin, these are the stakes, we have to stop the guy story. So I'm sure that we'll start kind of going back in the past a bit and really digging into everything else. But it's interesting, I think, when you use this as a narrative tool, especially when you're, to Jamie's point, doing it, I think, with more sensitivity. I don't have DID, so I can't speak fully to it. But I would say that this is a more progressive and interesting way than just being like, I had an opposite personality and he was created so that I could accomplish things and have better sex and be awesome and cool. And then I killed him. And it's like, that's not how it works. It makes me think of like how the Babadook kind of dealt with depression, where instead of like beating this creature, we locked it in a very literal room of the house, and we'll just always have to deal with it. And I was like, that's, or like It Follows in sexual trauma, where we kind of got into this, like, we beat the monster, but we didn't, it's not over, and it will never be over. We're always going to have this thing. And I think that's also why Moon Knight is getting so interesting. We're seeing a character dealing with, there is no finality to his main mental illness. That's who he is, and he's going to have to learn how to manage this and figure out who all these people are. And I'm sure part of it will also be the, like, nothing's really wrong with you. You're just on a neurodivergent spectrum.
Now, I mean, I'm sure Oscar Isaac is going to be part of the MCU for many years, and I hope that we get to see all these characters continue. I don't want the Moon Knight to end, and it's like, we're only getting Mark now. I think that would be lame.
Now, there's no way we're going to do that. So much of Moon Knight's character is him having DID. I don't think, otherwise he's just
some guy who,
we've done that story enough. Like, we're good there. No, I can't wait to see where it keeps going. I'm just so excited to be in, like, new places and have new themes and ideas, and even things that are, like, more challenging to talk about. I'm catching myself as we do the show being like, is this talking about it the right way? Is this the correct way to talk on DID? Like, I know none of us have it. Like, I don't know. Like, it, and I'm like, this is good, because as with any form of representation, it makes us ask questions, hopefully in a polite and understanding way, and then getting questions and having a better understanding of something that is valid and people do go through. And then we get more dope Marvel content also.
Yes.
I say more to all of it. This has been the show, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll obviously be back next week with an episode and a movie, and you can leave us a review on Hollywood Already Did It's Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. We're at Hollywood ADI. I'm at, as always, Blake. Terrence is at Terrence Tatum, and Jamie's at Jamie Cinematics. You can catch all the other podcasts and YouTube stuff that Terrence and I do with Hollywood Already Did It. And Jamie is on Phase Zero with comicbook.com. And that is it. We will see everyone next time.
Later.